I don't really want to do a rebuttal, but there are a couple of things that I do want to make sure we don't leave here tonight without talking about. First of all, Kit Keller, if you think that nobody in this room knows who you are so wrong. As a child of the 70s in Missouri State, then SMS, we were reared on Kit Keller stories. And I'm talking about of success. That was the standard that Don Stanton instilled in us. You helped set. The standard that Tom Black followed. Those were Kit Keller stories, weren't they, Tom? So please, don't think we didn't hear Kit Keller. So I hope that the people that came after us heard the Kit Keller stories, the Tom Black stories, the John Jackson stories, the Mike Frank stories, and all the stories that came after us, because that legacy is what we're here for tonight. Yeah, we had great times, but it was a tremendous amount of work. It was a tremendous learning opportunity, and frankly, it's a tremendous success at the same time. And I don't think anybody should forget that or apologize for that. So thank you. Secondly, I truly resent Don coming up here and defending himself. Because frankly, we didn't even touch the best Stanton stories because the president of the university is here. And you're right, Gloria, we could have all gone to jail and for all this. But Don gave you all these wonderful stories about traveling in a car, listening to Tom. Well, let me tell you my experience. And as I became a more senior member of the squad, Don Stanton showed up at the big tournaments by air. When we did the USC-UCLA swing one year, many of us crammed in that 15-passenger van and drove 24 hours straight through. So we didn't even have to have a hotel on the way at this point. Pulling a U-Haul van that had all our trailer, our stuff in it, and got there. Don flew out 2 days later. Don never forgot to mention that. My first tournaments with John Jackson, when he and I became partners at mid-year, it was very cold in Chicago the first week of February. Do you guys know that, especially back then? And Northwestern, which is always early in February at that point, Coon Hall, where the tournament is at, is like 200 yards from Lake Michigan. And in the middle 70s, Lake Michigan is frozen solid. And the snowblowers are so high up there that you're walking through these tunnels that are actually the sidewalks. Stanton didn't come to that tournament. He sent Charlie White up there for us at that point. So then we immediately get done with Northwestern, and we have to fly straight to the East Coast to go to the Naval Academy tournament. Now, the Naval Academy guys, Annapolis has better weather. It's a nice place if you've never been there. The Naval Academy guys and Don were very good friends. Phil Workin and Don were very close friends, so we always reciprocated. When they came to our tournament, we housed them, they took care of us. Now, yeah, they were friends, but remember, friendships back then are a little different. So John and I fly by ourselves from Chicago to Baltimore, and we're picked up by this wave in this van with no seats other than her seats. And we're going to sit on our luggage in the back and go to the academy where they're going to put us up. But she does have, because we're SMS, a case of Air Force. But our accommodations at this point are the Naval Academy Fieldhouse. We're in there with 200 steel bunk beds and a basketball court outside, and it's just the two of us. But they did, they spoiled us, you're right. Then the next morning, because remember the Naval Academy is a military installation. John and I get up in the morning, put our clothes on, we go walking around. We were taking a look at the academy. We see Commander Kidd, or Admiral Kidd was the head of the commandant of the academy. We walk up at that point and two SPs immediately arrest us. Because we're on a military base that's closed and we don't have passes or anything like that. They have to wake up. Morgan's assistant, who was a guy named Lieutenant O'Brien at the time, to bail us out, and he decides maybe we should be put in a hotel on the side. 2 days later, Stanton flies in. We have a better hotel. Things are better. So, you know, all this sacrifice that I was hearing about wasn't quite the same. But then I remember the other things that happened during that tournament because we were Stanton's pupils at this point. They were very proud at the Naval Academy tournament, Phil Morgan was, that no team had ever gone undefeated in that tournament. And you had 8 prelims back in the old days before you went into the limbs. And of course they power match like crazy after about the 3rd or 4th round. And Stanton's there, and we're undefeated, and he's fighting out all the ballots for us at this point. And by the 6th round, they're getting desperate at this point. Because Morgan can't have a team, much less a Stanton team, to go through undefeated at this point. And we're rolling through, and we win the 6th round. And the 6th round was a tough round against a really good team from Georgetown, who was probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams. So we win the 7th round, we meet somebody else. Then in the 8th round, something happened that I've never seen or heard of at any other time in my life. We're undefeated, we're 7-0, and we decide we're going to debate Georgetown again, which can't happen in the preliminary rounds. But they're not going to go undefeated. They're not going to have an undefeated team, much less a Stanton team. So they change all the rules, so we have to debate the same team again. Well, unfortunately for them, we went undefeated. We ended up winning the tournament. And I think that probably that year, regardless of the success at NDT, it was Don's favorite win of the year at that point. So, but it was nice of him to fly out 2 days later and join us once we were out of the barracks at that point. So, what I hope happens tonight, these are great stories, they're great times. It's great success, it's been great work, it's a great experience. I hope that the stories you guys have are every bit as great as the stories we have. The experiences that you take away from here are every bit as meaningful as the experiences we take. Because believe me, we take away a lot more experiences than the ones we're talking about tonight. I can assure you. As a little kid from Neosho, Missouri, which I survived even though Dugan had been there before me at this point. It was a great thrill to come up here, have a chance to compete, traveled, go to Georgetown, go to Harvard, go to the Naval Academy, go to Northwestern, and compete against the best. And SMS, Missouri State, has always competed against the best. And some years we were the best, and some years we weren't, but we always competed against the best. And I will tell you that that's a legacy that's very hard to find, very many places. And that's the legacy I hope you guys have as well. And I think you do, because frankly, if you ask me, the program's in fabulous hands today. I salute the generations that have come after me, and I salute the people who are here today in the job that they're doing. A job well done, Rick.
I'm John Fritsch. I was the director of forensics here for 10 years. Before I came here, I was a graduate student at the University of Kansas for 5 years, where I was an assistant coach. I debated at the University of Nebraska. After leaving here, I went to the University of Northern Iowa, which has a long and distinguished debate program, and I'm currently the director of the National Debate Program. One of the things that struck me about Southwest Missouri State when I got here, strikes me about Missouri State today, is the breadth and depth of the quality of the alumni of this program. It is amazing. When I went to the dean's office one day when I was the director of forensics there, I remember having the feeling that the conversation was not going very well. He was trying to make some budget decisions. And I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? And what I essentially did was looked at the dean and said, here's my list of alums. Where's theirs? And he looked at me and said, you're doing okay. The other part that strikes me about that is that this is a unique place for that quality. I come from Kansas, a big state university. This place is very much like the alums of Kansas. It's very much like the alums of Harvard. It's very much like the alums of Dartmouth. It is not like the ones in Nebraska. It is not like the ones where I'm at now in terms of the big program. One of my favorite scholars is David Zarefsky. He often talks about differences that make a difference. So I'm sitting here tonight going, what makes this place different? And I was thinking about one other thing when I came in tonight, and it occurred to me that there are 4 people in this world that I have trouble calling by their first name, other than my parents. My advisor at the University of Kansas, if you're familiar with the is a guy by the name of Dr. Don Carson. He's a Dr. Carson. Other people I have trouble calling by their first name. Dean Spicer, Dr. Stanton, Dr. Stowe. When I was here, they were outstanding mentors, outstanding supporters of the program. And I think if you look at your own lives, you go, who are the people that made a difference in my life? I was only a coach here for 10 years. And the impact that Spike had on my life, the impact that Skip had on my life, the impact that Don Stanton had on my life, is just profound. In fact, the question I asked Gary was, I was trying to decide whether to come back from Iowa was, Spike wouldn't be here, Skip wouldn't be here. After 10 years here, I can finally say those words rather than doctor. I don't know if Dr. Stanton knows, but when I came in, I was like, There, you know, I worked with Eric for 2 years, 3 years, while I was here, 6 years. The program's in really great hands. The last thing I haven't been here for 10 years, but it still does my heart joy to announce names like Martin Osborne as the top speaker of the National Debate. He is the first top speaker ever from a comprehensive university. And something that might not be much to When I got to announce his name, I don't think anybody in that room knew how excited I was for his success. And the other thing I will tell you is that as a person who is still associated with this program, when I go to the National Debate Tournament, every year I get asked about how Dr. Stovall, Dr. Stanton, Dr. Spicer are doing. And the fact that they have an impact on that community 30, 40 years after they've stepped down from the program is a testament not just to the power that they have, but to the people that they are as well. And I think we should all be glad of that. I do have some story about how I became able to call Dean Spicer Spike. Second tournament, third tournament when I'm coaching here, I asked Dr. Spicer to go with us. And the students are like, yeah, this will be a great time. And I said, no, this is Dean Spicer we're taking on the tournament. They said, John, you don't understand, it's Spike. I said, no, I understand, it's Dean Spicer. They said, you don't understand? I got Dean Spicer a suite so that he could enjoy the tournament experience with us. And I said, now kids, you got to remember, no alcohol, no swearing. And I go through the list of rules. I go, we're going to have our squad meeting in Dean Spicer's room. You have to be on best behavior when we go in there. And they're like, okay. And they roll their eyes. We walk in, Spike is sitting in a recliner, drinking a beer, with his t-shirt that says, I've fallen and can't reach my beer. He's watching. He's watching Cinemax. Late night Thursday or whatever he looks at me and goes, now that's entertainment. So after that, it could become a little bit easier to find Spike. But I really would encourage you, as you think about your own lives and the impact that these people have had on you, you cannot have a history of a program that is better than the one that has been given to us by Dean Spicer, Dr. Stovall, and Dr. Stanton. Thank you.
This will be fast. Dr. Smart, I would like to have you close your ears, and Dr. Stanton, I'd like to have you close your ears. Now you promised, and you promised, and this is off the record, and this is the most important speech that I've ever given in my life, and I am serious. And you didn't hear it, and you didn't hear it either. If you talk about legacy, one of the things that there is a tradition and an honor that is bestowed at this university is for the faculty who have been here a very long time to help be on the Wall of Fame. You didn't hear this, and you didn't hear this either. But I am mad because last year I sent a 4-page letter and it wasn't good enough. And that's not right. And I am asking all of you to make sure that next year that Dr. Stanton is on that Wall of Fame, because whatever I wrote was not good enough for this university, and I'm mad. And we cannot let it happen. I even said, this individual has been on this campus longer than most of the faculty has been alive, and they wrote back to me and told me I need a campaign. Bullshit.
Good evening, Richard Thompson. There's been enough talk about legacy that even though I've lost my voice, let alone have any brain power anymore, I need to mention one person. You mentioned someone who's not here tonight, you would enjoy it. I need to mention one more, my dad. Guy Thompson is not here. He was the registrar for years at then SMS. Before that, class of 1928, he was a championship debater, among other things, and had all the leads in the school plays. He was even the woman in the woman's wedding, I understand. My mother used to love to tell that story. My dad would really enjoy tonight up until when I debated in 1952-53. I was on Virginia Craig's final debate team. Main thing I remember from Dr. Craig is it was definitely Mr. Roosevelt's war, World War II. And then, of course, I was on Coach Spicer's first team. And I'm having a kind of a, you know, the TV show Cold Case, and I'm having a cold case experience this evening. I'm looking at Spike. You know, I'm privileged to have as a lunch companion once in a while, guess where? And I'm seeing, you know, sort of Spike as he is now sitting there, but beside him is this very, very young, really good-looking, black-haired, curly-haired young man from Redlands, California, who came there for, maybe a year or two before he moved on to greater things. And I'm so glad he stayed, and I know we are. Back at that time, in 52, 53, my dad and I were at the time the only father-son championship debaters on those plaques that used to be in the old auditorium in Carrington Hall. And I just echo your sentiments in saying that I will Spike and Dr. Craig and of course my dad, any success I've had in trying to be a critical thinker. Thank you very much.
Earlier this evening. And one of the questions that was asked in that process is, what would I say to administration about the day? Well, one of the things I've done for the last 6 years is be a shameless fundraiser. And so, as I was thinking about that question, what would I say to an administrator, I answered the young man by funding, funding, funding. And I challenge you all, everyone in this room, whether it's $5 or $10 or whatever it can be, we only have this because other people have come before us and supported it with blood, sweat, and tears. And every one of us understands how vitally important this activity is. That we be able to learn and to share and to have culture. One of the things that all of the speakers here tonight have touched on is that we learn culture, truly culture. You took people from little towns in the flyover states, and you took us you took us to LA. You took us to places that we might have never seen in our lives. And we got to experience things that we probably would have never gotten to experience. But folks, this is a shameless part of my speech. Those things only happen with dollars. And we don't like to talk about it, and we don't like to be brazen and ask for it. But I'm pretty brazen. And I'm asking you. That lady over there I just met this weekend, I know that she will gladly take your money. And so I would ask you, as much as we celebrate this activity, let's celebrate it too.
One quick rejoinder. When I was in Baylor, we took great pride that Dr. Craig, who's been retired for some time, would still come by and listen to our debates and congratulate us when we had done something significant. Dr. Ellis, who was our first intercollegiate debater, president for 35 years, always made it a point to take notice of anything significant. And he too would come up even in the attic of Carrington and visit us for some practice rounds. I want to thank President Smart for being here this evening. After Leland Craywick left as president, who was very supportive of the program, the only other president who has ever appeared in the debate function was my friend Russ Keeler. And we are very, very pleased to see you here this evening. Let's go. Tom, you gonna have this?
Great to see you guys.
Hey, as people are starting to get up and leave, one of the things we'd like to do, kind of on the way out, is that we want to assemble people by the decade and take a decade picture of 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And Talina, where we're going to have to set up? Okay, and so we're going to do this right by the stairs. We'll start with the 1950s.
The one we didn't mention was the main bar.
If you were in more than one decade, then we have more than one
So
picture.
it's actually more significant.
If you were around in the 1950s, head towards the stairs. Thank you.
Significant influence on
All right. No one was very significant, Spike, but Maynard was just fun.
Well, all right. Spike was theory and analysis. Maynard was just attack.
Attack.
I mean, I know. I mean, it's, I was hoping somebody would say something.
brought
I should have.
competitive edge. You know, Spike was very opposite. I mean, I'm not saying he's
I only had Maynard for 1 year. He was off to going back to school. I think he was only there 1 or 2 years.
there my first year.
It had to have been more than that.
I think it was.
Because he was there when I was
You and I in
in
the
high
same
school.
class.
Please head to the stairs if you're around in the
Oh, let's see, I
1960s.
graduated in '66.
So it must have been 2 years. He was only there 2 years.
You know, here's what I remember, and I'm vague on some of this. Spike was working on his doctorate, and I was reading all of his stuff on Aristotle. And then Maynard, then he went back to Cambridge. But he was working part-time. I was with him when he was studying his foreign language, studying out at the television station.
Yeah, well, Maynard, was no TV.
Oh yeah, the announcer. But I thought the combination.
Oh, no, they were just two opposites.
They were fabulous. Well, this is perfect. I'm so glad I came. Gee, we're ignoring you here. Right, Gene. We're supposed to get a picture? Well, then wait, it's got to be all three of us. All right, let's go. going?
But I mean, what I did was very heartfelt about
Oh, yeah. You made a marvelous speech.
1970s.
it was
If you live in the 1970s, please explain the stories.
that I was in the best situation to be in.
Oh, well, you were very good, Mike. You had a wonderful, broad vision. I mean, you were one of my favorite people to talk to because.
Well, I know, yeah, we went back and forth on everything. That was
We
so
talked
much
about
fun.
right
That's what
brain.
debate was all about.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
the people in it.
And frankly, at college, most people were fairly narrowly focused and vocational related.
I know, well-
And it really didn't have that kind of broad conversation. We just couldn't
yeah.
find it.
In a very real sense, we were the liberal arts school.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
concentrated
Yeah.
in that area. And I mean, there's some other people in philosophy, and I mean, a few others, but not very
Appleby
many.
finally came. Philosophy was a Baptist minister, remember? He taught.
Appleby?
No, not Appleby.
Oh,
but the guy
Appleby was-
before him. The guy that
No, I
was
missed
there.
him. Appleby
Yeah.
was my. He died. You know, he went out to Utah.
Did Peter die?
No, yeah, he's been dead for some time, and
my.
they just loved him out there. It was the ACLU, and God almost he was fighting the Mormons to do this. And I learned a lesson. My mother used to pound this on me, and of course it's not good when mothers
No.
resist and don't do things. She always wanted me to thank people for everything under the sun.
Yeah.
To some extent, I absorbed that.
Yeah.
And I got around to thinking, because that was the most, aside from debate and some of my history classes, that was the most important part of my undergraduate education, philosophy minor, and the part under him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I looked him up on the internet, and Lord, he died. And
I visited him in 68 or 67. My wife and I were out going out to San Francisco. Then we were heading down the coast, and we had not been west. We stopped off in Salt Lake City
yeah.
and got a hold of him and had a nice evening with him, and he listened to some jazz and we got off on Advent because one of our United Methodist churches was trying to celebrate Advent, but he's being an Episcopalian. He said, "You don't do it right. It's a penitential season. It's not about. It's just not about Santa Claus and Christmas." Anyway, but he was he was a very thoughtful guy.
there were more
Charles Rutherford, who, even to this day, I mean, I'm still trying to wrestle with it.
Yeah.
It's one of the great minds of America.
Well, he had, I forget, the Big Franks, I forget who it is, Big Franks, and what was good last year?
Oh, yeah.
There were some of us in there, and he really taught the focus on two levels. He'd pass all these idiots, but he held us to the same kind of high intellectual standards that he had. And I never cared about grades. I mean, that was...
Yeah.
1990s.
Yeah, he brought a high
1990s.
level of thought and introduced, because the school really was kind of unaware of the larger world.
Training
Anyway.
school for elementary ed teachers and
Yeah.
farmers.
Yeah. it just
And farmers
didn't
were
have it.
obsolete.
And Graywick, I think, were in that era that started when the school the wider world. And of course, it's gone on from there. But
And of course, we were receptive. And I managed for that from the third grade on. But
great experience.
the ability to be a part of the debate program, and what I really remember was the last tournament. Jackson Harold and I, at the end of my senior year, were reunited, and this was down at Searcy, Arkansas.
Oh,
That whole thing, yeah, we slipped in all the liquor and then left a trail of water through the building because we had to hide everything. And I looked out at the audience and got to the final round, and Ralph Eubanks, and University of Arkansas was judging me, and I knew I was there because he liked Southern old-style oratory, and I can wear many hats, and but this was, and I thought if I'm going to go out, and rather than end on a defeat or a second or something else, go out and win tonight. But I mean, the one thing about it, if you look at 8 years, high school and college, Omaha, Lumen Resources Plant in Omaha. This is what gave us liberal hope. I mean, some of this would be duplicated in classes, but the point is we had to argue it from both sides. Yeah, write a few things out and then cite a few sources and drop. No. And I, nobody ever that. We didn't reach the highest philosophical level, but his ability to deliver, convince was A+. That was compete against that for a long period of time. High school. Oh, yeah. Good to see you guys.
Guarded.
Oh yeah, and of course you can always count on me to go from the field line. Well, it was so much fun because you were such a good target. But that's what sharpens you. That's what sharpens you.